can I keep the same confidence that I had when things were killing it now, when in theory all of my businesses are super challenged? So
this is one of those incidences that who would ever dream that every single one of your businesses get affected so deeply, you know what I mean? And I was just curious, where and what you're doing in order to, make it through the pause, because there's no doubt whatever you do, you'll be successful through this, but this period of time makes it very difficult for your businesses.
it's definitely, it's been a challenge. If you would have said to me 6 months ago, hey, all 13 gyms, all 5 restaurants, New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, DC, Philly, closed at the same time on basically the same day, I would have, that's one of those scenarios like, well, what if that happens? We all got bigger problems. So,
right. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
You know,
Eugene, that's a really good point nobody makes, right? This is one of these circumstances where everyone's like, if that happens, I don't really care if I ever have a restaurant. But it's such a weird circumstance that, like, for certain industries, it's completely an apocalypse, right? It's like, I should have different problems, but then again, I can still go to the grocery. I can still drive my car. I can go jogging out. Like, it's the weirdest dynamic that some people, it's like an apocalypse. And then you got these other businesses like, like in my business, right? My sports business, apocalypse, right? Like sports events, there's nothing. But the other businesses I have, right, are like, oh my God, I don't have enough time in the day to handle all the requests and the stuff that's going on. But for you make a great point. My mind said the same thing. If that ever happened, if all my businesses closed on one day, I got bigger fish to fry. But it's this weird anomaly. And then you got the timing of like, are we opening on May 18th or June 1st? Or do people sit like 6 feet apart? And then the fitness side of it is, are people going to actually want to come and touch each other?
Yeah, look, you said something there before. You said, hey, there's no doubt that you're going to be great at whatever you do. And it's a funny thing, right? When all of your things are going great, of course there's no doubt because everything is going great. And then when the one thing you've been doing for 20 years, which is basically creating experiences, is at the forefront of something that's being challenged for the near or long-term future, it actually does seep in that first moment of doubt. It actually does seep in, uh-oh, is that it? Am I done? Because I'm not really the most technical person. I'm not the most financial person. I've always created experiences and brought together with my partners tons of people in really tight spaces and created this magic that you can't write on a spreadsheet or on a document. So when that stops, it really gives you perspective. So then, look, I always say, right, someone who's very generous is someone who has 20 sushi rolls and then goes, take some, have some, it's all good. But when you only have one, are you so generous with it? Do you want to give it out? So can I keep the same confidence that I had when things were killing it now, when in theory all of my businesses are super challenged? So I test myself in that, and I'm challenged in those situations. And I have to remind myself, like, I can't just spew it when things are good. Now, when things are challenged, in fact, I have to probably really lean into that even more. So that doubt is there and it is real, but that has to be overcome. And if that's what I have to learn from this process, yes, I have groceries. Yes, my parents, my friends, my family are all healthy. Yes, I could do weights. I could do a workout with 20-pound dumbbells and a floor mat. I'm good, right? I don't really need anything else to live my life. So right now, I guess if the only challenge I have is a business challenge, then let's spend this time and focus on our business challenges. So what are we doing, right? We are focusing on what we can do, right? So sometimes the best offense is a good defense, and sometimes you have to fight, right? So in this scenario, the first step was to create a good defense, right? Minimize all your costs, minimize all your expenses, really get lean because you need to be there for the long run. And I always say with our teammates, we got one tank of gas. So if we spend the tank of gas circling around the driveway and burning through it, we're never going to have enough to get where we need to go in the future. So limiting our exposure in the early stages, hard decisions, but smart decisions for the long run. And look, with Rumble, we've got this Zoom class, right, where we're giving our trainers the opportunity to teach their classes from home. So we're providing an opportunity to speak to our customers, keep the brand strong and also bring some revenue to our trainers, which is super important. And on the catch side, we're starting to really think about what does the new normal look like, right? Because we were never normal to begin with. We were always these big, wacky restaurants that had 1,000 people in it, that blasted hip hop at 10:30 p.m. and didn't have classic managers, right? So we didn't wear shirts and ties, and we didn't wear suits, and we wore sneakers, and we were different. So, okay, somewhere in the last couple of years, that became normal. So now we have to become the new version of different. So what that looks like, we're still trying to figure out. I mean, step one, probably figure out delivery. And right now delivery hasn't been something we do. So we're probably going to move into delivery, probably start with California, move on to New York. Step two, think about what a smaller menu would look like, right? Like you can't have, just to give everyone a perspective, it's an assembly line at a restaurant. There are probably 20 people working to create that one dish that you get on your plate. So it's impossible to have 20 people working on something when you are at limited capacity. So sitting with the chef team and coming up what that new menu is going to look like, still keeping true to our three principles, right? Great food, great service, great vibe. Vibe, hard to have vibe with masks and temperature readings and everything that's going to be part of that new normal. But until when it becomes normal, that's just part of the vibe. So that's what we're gonna figure out.
I think I went through that in 2008, and what I started looking at was, and you mentioned a skill of yours that's so marketable and something to focus in on and monetize, and that's you're really good at getting people together, right? And don't discount that, right? You guys have magic about attracting people, and that vibe that you talk about is one that you have always created and other people have copied. And so, using that skill set over the last 2 decades that you've had of creating a vibe through bringing people together. And if you can't bring them together in a tight space at a loud restaurant with, eclectic managers, you're going to figure out how to partner with Zoom and Uber to create, the catch of the day, and have 100 people on a Zoom eating at the exact same time, and the delivery service with a smaller menu or whatever it is. And I'm very confident in that of you guys and of you personally, that you don't lose your skills, you don't lose your knowledge, and you don't lose your desire, right? The game can change all around you, but the ball will always find the weaker player, not the strongest player. The strongest player is always going to score the touchdown. They could change the rules all they want on the greatest running back. He's still going to run and score touchdowns. I promise you. And the quarterbacks are always going to be they could change the rules whatever they want on the quarterbacks. But, when the rules were really tough for quarterbacks, there were still great quarterbacks, right? The Warren Moons, the Troy Aikmans, and the Steve Young. And then they changed the rules and everything. They're still great quarterbacks.
Yeah, unless you're Bill Laimbeer. Unless you're Bill Laimbeer, because if you can't punch the guy when he goes down the court, then you probably don't have a skill set in the NBA today. But yes, I think, look, if you're a one-trick pony and you only had a shtick, right, one style of a shtick, you could be really challenged. And look, I was around in 2008. We had one nightclub, 10 June in 2008. And I don't think we really understood what the term recession meant, because I think Mark and I were 30 years old. So we didn't, and again, we were not going to business school. So we certainly didn't know what a recession meant. But we started to see $5,000 tables go to $1,000 tables. And then we saw a lot of restaurants and nightclubs starting to close. So we realized that the experience aspect was always going to be there, but it needed to evolve. The same playbook that we used, we needed to switch it. But the general concept, bringing people together to have a great experience in an authentic environment to create moments, is something that we will always create. And quite honestly, at the other side of this, I'm pretty confident that there's going to be even more of it. And the extremism of people wanting to be together is going to be like, I think there was like a moment right before this of like anti-socialism. Like we were anti-social because we saw each other so much on social media, where people stopped connecting in person. And if there's anything that's going to come out of this, in my personal, non-educated opinion, is that people are going to be so thirsty for other human contact and using all 5 senses. Like I could see you right now and I can hear you, but we're not together. We're not hanging out. We're not at that level where we would be with all the energy of a lot of people. So as soon as we get that opportunity, and then this is where I use my Braveheart analogy, right? The guy's running back, Mel Gibson is running back and forth, and he's just saying, hold, hold, hold. The brands that can hold and survive this and be willing to wait for those hard moments and wait for those people to come near them, and at that right moment, attack, that's the companies that are going to be on the other side of this. So if the experience started 20 years ago as a big box nightclub and then transitioned into a restaurant and then transitioned into a fitness concept, the thing that stayed consistent was experience. So for anyone out there trying to figure out what their world looks like, keep to the core of what it is. Everything else may change around it, right? This shirt might have stitches here. It may have stitches there. It may have a big logo here one year. That's going to come in and out of trend, but it's always going to be a hoodie. And there's always going to be experiences. So they're always going to be there. So holding and being around for 2008 taught us a lot. And the togetherness, right? The togetherness. And I do agree with you. The people who were awesome quarterbacks will continue to score. But the people who were just one-trick ponies or only good at clotheslining you when you went down for the basket, when they changed the rules, you're out of it. If you can't score a three in the NBA right now, you don't play.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think that attitude of stabilizing and then preparing, I tell some young entrepreneurs right now, and I love the fact that you're on here and say, well, I was only 30 because, I get kids 19, 18, and I'm like, you have no idea, right? I'm 52 years old. So when someone tells me you're 30, they know that I have 22 years of dummy tax that I paid. 22 years of that's all I've done every day. It's not like I went to school and was in the fraternity and was doing all that stuff, but not focusing. Since I've been 30 years old, all I focused in on was making a lot of money to help a lot of people and have fun. And that's all I vote. And you're going to make a ton of mistakes and learn a ton. And so I seek that stabilization. But more importantly, I tell young people, if you're not taking this time right now to develop your skills, acquire more knowledge, and work on practicing ending fear. The best thing about this time is a lot of these kids, last 13 years since you were 30, right? And 2008 happened. You have only seen the growth that these kids have seen since they were, guys that are 35 were 22 the last time they saw any type, and it had no effect on their life, what the economy did. Now they have all this growth. Now they're going to have to see one thing. What's it like to practice ending fear? What is it like when tables drop from 5,000 to 1,000? What is it like to go into an interview and beg for a job that pays 1/3 what you used to make? What's it going to be like? Are you going to be able to handle that fear? Just like this round for you, that's your biggest challenge right now is you're practicing ending those doubts, right? Am I good enough? And I'll tell you right now, there's no doubt in my mind. You're only better than you were when 13 years ago, right? You're only better than you were.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny, right? You need experience to appreciate experience. Hence why it's experience. So
yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. So I'm very happy that those 19-year-olds don't have experience, because what they do have is a lot more energy potentially and a lot more tech savvy, but experience is experience. And it's really, that's why the great ones in every industry always stay in the industry and everyone else is just passing by. But I agree that the doubt is real and it does creep up. And if that is the challenge that's put in front of me or anybody else today, okay, sit in it. Don't run away from it. And that's the other thing, right? A lot of people work their way through their problems. They go out through their problems. They drink through their problems. They exercise through their problems. This is a version where you really don't have a choice but to sit and soak in whatever it is that makes you uncomfortable, insecure, because you can't just lean into all the awesome stuff because it's just not there. You can't hide in your work. You gotta live in your relationship. You gotta live within your four walls. You gotta live within the lack of stimulation from outside people. And you gotta live within the fact that you may not be making anywhere near the money that you made before. So who are you? Are you the dude with the money, or are you just the dude, right? So very big difference. And I'm excited. And I think in 2013 or whatever it is, Mark and I had a bunch of places and a lot of them closed, and it felt like a disaster at the time, but it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Now, what a cliche, right? When you're back on the top, oh, it was so bad, and then everything worked out, right? But now when it's bad again, you got to remember that. And that is my North Star, the reminder that every time I thought things were a disaster, it was the most accelerator, biggest accelerator for success in my entire career. When things were dope and pretty awesome, I probably grew the absolute least because I wasn't challenged. I didn't have that friction. So I think if this is an opportunity that the majority of the people in this country or this world are challenged, then we have the biggest opportunity for growth and an acceleration into what the next version of us is. And hopefully that's a better version, and hopefully we can all learn from this. So that's my point of view. I just got to keep believing what I'm saying, because a lot of people say it and then they don't actually believe it. And I sometimes smell my own BS, and I'm like, no. I can't say it if I don't believe it. So I better remind myself. And that's a challenge. Being honest with you, it's a challenge.
I'm right with you. And this is, my third time through this. And as somebody that had hit the pinnacle and realized how empty I was and not enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential, that was my biggest downfall. I'm lucky to have lived through, but my own bankruptcy in 2008 was, and it's cliche because people say, oh, it's easy for you to say now because you're even bigger and better than you were. Well, you know what? It's true though. You can say what you want. It's the best thing. And if I look back at all the challenging times, my worst time of my life is when I had everything. Literally the most unhappy, worthless time of my life was when I was not pursuing something. And so now all I do is stay focused every day to enjoy that pursuit. I always say pain is an indicator to me now. Pain's an indicator that I have a lesson to learn, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, or financial. Whenever pain comes into my life, I say to myself, I'm super excited because I have something that I'm supposed to learn. And the pain will go away when I learn it. The financial pain goes away when you learn it. The physical pain goes away when you learn it. The emotional pain goes away when you learn it. And that's the reminder that you give yourself when you get these, specks of ego-based emotion that say, shit, am I really walking the walk? Right? Because I'll do it when I'm training someone. I'll literally stop and say, gosh, that's really good advice you just gave that guy that's paying you. You should really listen to it, moron. I can't believe you this, right? Like yourself. And so that's my favorite part. Real quick, because you are in, the smiling through struggles. You're a try me guy, not a why me guy. You're not a victim. You've never been one. I'm doing a training on Friday on motivation versus inspiration, right? And my belief is that motivation's a soul sucker, but it gets you up. But inspiration is what gets you there. You cannot be motivated through an entire football game. You can't be motivated for an entire life, but you can live inspired. What distinction do you make between being motivated and inspired?
Okay. Motivation is similar to sugar or caffeine. Quick hit, quick adrenaline rush, go do something, right? That gets you an immediate result and a small term success, right? A motivation is something that, just say again, what were the two again?
Yeah, motivation is like sugar, inspiration.
Okay. Inspiration are big, honest, lofty goals. And it's not usually money. It's usually something bigger than yourself. So if you can focus on that, that's consistent. So that, the problem with a caffeine spike, boop, down. Sugar, boop, down. If you're starving and you eat a big cheeseburger, you're going to take a nap right after it. So the energy that it was supposed to give you is only immediate. So I look for anything that can give me long-term North Star goals, and that's the difference to me. So quick shot, no problem. By the way, important, right? Sometimes we need I called Tillman Fertitta, my business partner, yesterday, and I needed a quick shot in the ass, right? I'm inspired in general, but I needed some motivation, and he gave it to me in about 90 seconds of texting, right? And it's all I needed, right? And then it reset me to my inspiration, and that is that we create great experiences, that we take care of the staffs take care of the guests take care of the bills, that we create authentic community-driven experiences, like the cores of who we are. And I woke up this morning and be like, I'm inspired. So I think that's where I would end it.
Well, I love it, man. And you inspired me. Say hi to Tillman for me as well.
We'll do.
Join me anytime, my friend. If you need anything, let me know. Thank you. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Same.
Right.
Back
I'll
at
be
you
the
later.
first one to order in California to go. Let me know in
Please,
delivery.
we'll get there soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Thanks, Eugene.